Okay, we're here today at the McMullen Family Cemetery in Clearwater. We're going to not do too much talking throughout this video because the wind is really whipping in. There's a storm system coming in off the Gulf, and the wind is horrendous. And excuse me, in my experience, when it's real windy like that, all you hear is shh. So we're kind of behind one of these little buildings, well, the only little building on the grounds right now. Excuse me, and so we're gonna, the wind is kind of cutting that off right now, I hope. The significance of this cemetery is that it's the McMullen family. The McMullens, together with the Booths and a few other families, basically settled Pinellas County, the peninsula. This cemetery was established in 1881, and it's along a major thoroughfare. We're in a major metropolitan suburban area right now, but this has been here since 1881. These guys all moved down from Georgia, 7 brothers, and worked together and helped settle Pinellas County, as I said, with the Booths, Belchers, a couple other people, families over the years, and then gradually that grew. This started out as their family plot, the McMullens, but eventually others were allowed to join. But my understanding of it is that right now only the McMullens and McMullen descendants are still being interred here. There is room for interment here, just not willy-nilly. It's not a tiny cemetery, but it is a small cemetery. It's about 150 graves roughly in here right now. One of the most interesting aspects of this cemetery to me, excuse me, is that the McMullens removed the remains of their ancestors from Georgia, which are right over here right now, and put them here in their family plot. And I think that is just very, very, very cool. They didn't want them up there when all their kin were down here. So I just think that's very cool. And the McMullens would have come here at a time in the 40s and 50s when this was dangerous from a standpoint of Indians, but also from a standpoint of disease. This is a very malarial type of area. We're on the peninsula. We're in Pinellas County. We're in Clearwater. There's mosquitoes. There would have been, all the normal stuff that you would have seen back in the day in Florida. You would have had alligators, puma, cougars, bear, snakes. So, and just the normal accidents that would befall people. People just die from disease and accidents and things like that. So, it was a very dangerous place, a place for very hardy people. So we're going to go through and just sort of film the highlights. We'll see the whole thing, but we won't stop at every gravestone. Obviously, we don't typically do that anyway. But I do want to focus on these guys over here because this is really, to me, very, very cool. Try not to jerk around too much. I know that is a failing of mine. Okay, so we can read this. It says Sarah Minton, wife of, parents of the 7 McMullen brothers who settled this Pinellas County in the mid-1800s, etc., also descendants, whose descendants also settled in Pinellas County. Original burial site, Brooks County, Georgia. Hickory Head, Brooks County, Georgia. So they were removed here in 1999. These are the stones that were there when these people passed back in the day. And it would have been in the 1800s. This is 1847, 1852, 59 maybe, can barely read it, and 1862. So this guy was born in 1788. This person, I can't read who it was. Oh, James. It's James McMullen. Okay, 1788, and died in 1862. So not only was he hardy, he was old. I'm going to back up a little bit. And these are their initials, James McMullen. Can you see that okay? I can't tell if I can. Okay, there it is. Okay. And the McMullens are essentially local celebrities, because they, they're still in business to this day around here. There are still McMullens that own a lot of property, own businesses, things like that. I actually worked for a McMullen descendant named McMullen, D. Guy McMullen, back in the 70s. He owned a distributorship for Chevron, and I worked there delivering car parts, basically automotive parts. But it wasn't like it was a great big truck. It wasn't like a smaller deliveries type thing. It was for wholesale, more or less. So anyway, these are all facing the other way, so we're going to walk around and come back up the other way. I want to try to get a shot. You can see in the background, or I guess it's the foreground now, there's a woodman of the world. The road, this is Coachman Road, Northeast Coachman Road. The old Coachman Road is down there, and this connects to 19 and a few other culture, and goes on into Clearwater. But it's just fascinating to me that this plot of ground has remained essentially unchanged since the late 19th century, and this would have been part of McMullen's property. So he would have owned all this property around here that we're seeing now, and he donated this for use as a cemetery. Uh-oh, there's a Confederate flag. Somebody's gonna have to come along and sandblast that. We can't have anybody having served for the Confederacy. This guy didn't serve. He was young. I don't know why there's a red flag, but I like it. Oh, this is a very interesting. Well, there's a lot of wording here. We're here today to mourn the loss. Mark James Crane, great-great-grandson. Let's see, 1979 to 04, I guess it is. Born in Clarksville, Tennessee, died at St. Petersburg or Bayfront Hospital. There's a whole paragraph here. Very, very interesting. And there's Latin. Great-grandson of the first mayor of Clearwater, Christian Luke McMullen, just passed 2015. So since I've been here the first time, this person has passed and been buried here. Wow, 96 for 2015. Wow. That's sad. He wasn't even 20 years old, or just barely 20 years old. Wow. Sad. More McMullens, James Jr. And here's Daniel Guy, D. Guy McMullen. This is the person I worked for back in the day. Well, this is D. Guy Jr. I think, well, there were two of them there at the time. And one was a son, so this must have been the old man who outlived his son. And these are all McMullens throughout here. Take a walk over here and see what's over here. Creedy, King, Craig, Hackney. So these would have all be in some way or other related to the McMullens. There's a lot of McMullens. There's a lot of big family. As we get closer, I guess, to the other side, the graves are older. So that makes sense. Virginia May, wife, Burton McMullen, 1950, 1965. There's 1910. Reverend G.W. Mitchell. I wonder if that's kin to the Mitchells up in Pasco. There was no Pasco back in those days. There was only, well, when they first came down, it would all been Hillsborough. 1890. That's interesting. Oh, there's a red flag. Captain James P. McMullen, Army of the Confederate. Wow, so he served his country. Wow. Astonishing. Let's zero in on that because we don't see that very often anymore. Everybody's trying to erase it as if it never happened. As if we have no right to celebrate those people's sacrifice. David Hugh McMullen, Vietnam, and Desert Shield, wow. U.S. Air Force. CMSGT, Command Master Sergeant. Air Force, wow. More McMullens. G. Ward. This guy was born in 1825. So he was one of the original ones that came down and settled Pinellas County. So that gives you a brief overview of the cemetery of the original McMullen family, of the McMullens, who came to this area, settled this area, made a life for themselves, contributed to the community, served their country, and whose remains rest here on this ground. Hopefully the wind hasn't been too bad and I haven't panned too quickly or herky-jerkily. And for now, we're going to be out.